we will start photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a physico-chemical process. In photosynthesis, light energy is converted into chemical energy. In photosynthesis, light energy is converted into chemical energy. It is a redox process because both reduction and oxidation occurs. What is reduced, what is oxidized? CO2 is reduced in photosynthesis. Water is oxidized. These two are very important. That is why it is a redox process. It is an anabolic process because simple molecules combine and form complex molecules in photosynthesis. That is why it is called anabolic process. It is an endergonic process because in photosynthesis energy is consumed. That is why it is called endergonic process. Right. Now, which experiment demonstrates the essentiality of light for photosynthesis? Variegated leaf experiment. Then what is the aim of moles experiment? Moles experiment. CO2 is essential for photosynthesis. CO2 is essential for photosynthesis. And earlier experiments, which are very important, you know very well. Joseph Priestley experiment, John Ingenhousz experiment, Engelmann's experiment, Julius von Sachs experiment, Von Niels experiment, and Rubin and the Common experiment. Okay, what is the contribution? What is the Priestley's experiment? Priestley said that plants release oxygen which purify the environment. What is the contribution of Ingenhousz? Ingenhousz said that plants release oxygen only in the presence of light. Therefore, light is essential for photosynthesis. Engelmann gave first evidence for action spectrum. He conducted experiments on cladophora. Engelmann's experiment. Engelmann's experiment. Engelmann conducted experiments on cladophora, a green alga. He used aerobic bacterial suspension in the cladophora, and when light is passed, more aerobic bacteria were accumulated in two regions of light, namely blue and red, indicating that more bacteria were accumulated means more oxygen is liberated, means more photosynthesis occurs in these two regions. That is why the first evidence for action spectrum was given by Engelmann. Then Julius von Sachs said that in the green parts of the plant body, food material is synthesized and then it is stored in the form of starch. And a famous microbiologist, Von Niel, conducted experiments on green sulfur bacteria and purple sulfur bacteria and stated that In photosynthesis of bacteria, oxygen is not liberated. Instead, sulfur is liberated because hydrogen sulfide is oxidized. Therefore, in plant photosynthesis, oxygen is liberated because water is oxidized. In bacterial photosynthesis, oxygen is not liberated because water is not oxidized. Water is not oxidized. Instead, sulfur is liberated because H2S is oxidized. And finally, two scientists, namely Rubin and Kamen. Rubin and Kamen conducted experiments by using O18 isotope and said that the liberated oxygen in photosynthesis comes from water but not from carbon dioxide. The liberated oxygen in photosynthesis comes from water but not from carbon dioxide by using O18 isotope was conducted by Rubin and Kamen. These are the important early experiments. Joseph Priestley experiment, John Ingenhouse's experiment, Engelmann's experiment, Sachs experiment, Von Niel's experiment, and Rubin Kamen experiment. These are the very important. Then, what is the photosynthetic cell organelle? The photosynthetic cell organelle is chloroplast, right? Chloroplast is the photosynthetic cell organelle. Inside the chloroplast, there is a division of labor. Some reactions occurs in grana, some reactions occurs in stroma. That means clearly we can say site of light reaction, grana. Site of dark reaction, also called biosynthesis phase, stroma. Why light reaction occurs on grana? Because grana contain photosynthetic pigments. Why dark reaction occurs in stroma? Dark reaction require enzymes. The enzymes are located in the stroma. That is why. Then, what are the chloroplast pigments? What are the photosynthetic pigments present in chloroplast? Mainly four types: chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, carotenes, and xanthophylls. Is there any technique to separate these pigments from the plant body, from the leaves? Yes. That technique is called paper chromatography. Paper chromatography is a technique by which the photosynthetic pigments can be separated. On the chromatogram, four pigments are discreted like this. This is the loading part of the pigment. Now here onwards, here one pigment, second pigment, third one, and here there is a fourth one pigment. This pigment is called chlorophyll B. This is chlorophyll A. This is xanthophylls, and this is carotene. Chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, chlorophyll A, xanthophylls, and carotene. This is the arrangement in the chromatogram. Right? This is yellowish green. This is bluish green. This is yellow color. This is orange color. Among all these four pigments, the main pigment for photosynthesis, the principal pigment for photosynthesis is chlorophyll A. The most abundant pigment in the whole world, chlorophyll A. Don't confuse with rubisco. that is a protein, that is an enzyme. This is a pigment. Most abundant pigment in the whole world is chlorophyll A. This is the main pigment. Without this, no photosynthesis. The remaining pigments like chlorophyll B, xanthophylls and carotenes are known as accessory pigments. They are called as accessory pigments because they are not directly involved in photosynthesis but indirectly helped in photosynthesis by transferring energy to chlorophyll A and also by protecting the chlorophyll A from high light intensity. So those are the accessory pigment. This is the main pigment. Then what is the difference between absorption spectrum and action spectrum? A graph which shows absorption of light by photosynthesis pigments at different wavelengths is called absorption spectrum. A graph which shows rate of photosynthesis, a graph which shows absorption of light by photosynthetic pigments is called absorption spectrum. A graph which shows rate of photosynthesis at different wavelengths is called action spectrum. When you compare action spectrum, more or less same absorption and action spectrum, but it is not one-to-one overlapping. In both the cases, we'll find that absorption of light is more in two regions of spectrum, blue and red. Similarly, rate of photosynthesis is also more in blue and red lights. So chlorophyll A absorb more amount of lights in the blue region and red region. Therefore, two peaks are obtained in the graph in these two regions. That's all. Then, where all these pigments are arranged? On the thylakoid membranes. They are arranged in the form of discrete units. Each unit is called photosystem or pigment system. How many pigment systems are there? 2, PS1 and PS2. How many pigment systems are there? 2, PS1 and PS2. Each PS1 contain, that means photosystem contain light harvesting complex plus reaction center. Light harvesting complex or antennae complex plus reaction center. The reaction center of PS1, P700, PS2, P680. The reaction center of PS1, P700, PS2, P680. Right? What is P680? Absorption maxima of this pigment system is 680 nanometer. This one is 700 nanometer. These PS1 and PS2 are named based on their discovery but not based on the arrangement. Now, there are two types of electron transport. What are the two types of electron transports? Non-cyclic electron transport and cyclic electron transport. Non-cyclic electron transport regularly, commonly occurs in plants. This non-cyclic electron transport involve two photosystems, namely PS1 and PS2. This is PS2, this is PS1. Both are involved. When light falls on PS2, its reaction center, that is P680, become excited and liberate electrons. These are accepted by primary electron acceptor, that is pheophytin, and this pheophytin donate electrons to cytochrome B6 F complex, and now it donate to plastocyanin. Here there is a plastoquinone complex, and now before that it may be received sunlight and become excited, liberate electrons. Its reaction center P700, and those electrons are accepted by ferredoxin. Now the loss of electrons here is compensated by plastocyanin. Now this ferredoxin donate electrons to NADP plus so that it become NADPH. NADPH. Thus NADPH is formed. That means first electrons move uphill, then downhill, then uphill, then downhill. The number of uphills too, number of downhills too. These electrons move according to the scale of redox potential, according to redox potential scale, right? And now the electrons move from here to here and then here, finally here. These are accepted. So that means electrons are move in zigzag manner in the letter Z. It is called Z scheme of electron transport proposed by Hill and Bendall. Proposed by Hill and Bendall, electron transport, Z scheme of electron transport. Why it is called non-cyclic electron transport? Because the electrons move from PS1 to ultimately the ferredoxin and then to NADP plus. They cannot back to the PS2. That is why it is called non-cyclic electron transport. It regularly takes place in plants. It is a source of assimilatory power, that is NADPH and also ATP. But Z scheme explain the formation of NADP plus, but it is not explained about the formation of ATP. Then cyclic electron transport. Cyclic electron transport involve only PS1 photosystem. It occurs on stroma lamellae. And why in the stroma lamellae only PS1 is involved and cyclic electron transport occurs? There is no PS2 and also NADP reducing enzyme, that is NADP reductase enzyme, are absent. When light falls on this one, its reaction center become excited, electrons are liberated and finally given to ferredoxin, then moves to different electron carriers and ultimately comes back to the PS1 and moves back to the PS1 like this. The electron is moving like this. So as electrons moves from here to here and then ultimately reaches to the same. That is what is called cyclic electron transport. In cyclic electron transport occurs rarely. That means whenever additional amount of energy is required in plants, this will take place. In this cyclic electron transport, water is not oxidized, oxygen is not liberated, NADPH is not produced, but only ATP is generated. Now let us see how ATP is formed, and that was explained by chemiosmotic hypothesis. Chemiosmotic hypothesis was proposed by Peter Mitchell. Chemiosmotic hypothesis was proposed by Peter Mitchell. This hypothesis requires 4 components. One, membrane, this one. Second one, proton pump. Third one, proton gradient. Fourth one, ATP synthase. I will show you all. This is the membrane. On the membrane, there are photosystems. This is PS2. And here there is another photosystem, that is PS1. This is PS1. This is PS2. Here there is cytochrome B6 F complex. Here there is a plastoquinone and here there is plastocyanin. Now Here there is coupling factor complex. This is CF0. This is CF1. Now this chemiosmotic hypothesis proposed by Peter Mitchell require 4 components. Membrane, this acts as proton pump, and here in the lumen, this is the lumen part. In the lumen, protons are accumulated. That means more protons here, less protons here. More protons here, less protons here. Therefore, proton gradient is established. And finally, this is the ATP synthase. This protruded part is called ATP synthase. Now let us see how ATP is synthesized. Now, when light passed on the PS2, it's become excited, liberated electrons. The electrons are given to PQ. This is actually a proton carrier but not electron carrier. This point is very important. PS2 donate electrons to pheophytin, the primary acceptor of electrons. The pheophytin donate electrons not to electron carrier but to proton carrier. So the basic function of this one is transportation of protons into the lumen from the stroma. This side is stroma side, this side is lumen side. I think you understand. The surrounding part is stroma, this inner side is called lumen. So the function of this one is pumping of protons from stroma into the lumen. So that is the main function. But along with that, it also transport electrons. But the main function is proton carrier, but not electron carrier. However, it transport electrons also. And this transport is active, very important. This actively pump protons from stroma into the lumen. That means for transport of protons from stroma into the lumen, it utilizes energy, that is ATP. That is why it is called pump. Pumping means active transport. And now the electrons moves from cytochrome B6 to plastocyanin, and then into the PS1. Before that, it is excited and liberate electrons. The electrons are accepted by ferredoxin, and now the ferredoxin donate electrons to NADP plus, so that it become NADPH. Okay, NADPH. Now see here there is electron deficit. That electron deficit is compensated by water molecule. Towards the inner side, that is towards the lumen side, there is a OEC. What is OEC? Oxygen evolving complex. It contains three elements, namely calcium, magnesium, and manganese and chlorine. Calcium, manganese, and chlorine are present in the OEC. This OEC is located towards lumen side, break down water molecule in the presence of light. That is what is called photolysis of water. As a result, electrons are liberated, protons are liberated, and oxygen is also liberated. Half O2 is also liberated. The electrons are taken up by PS2. The electrons are taken up by PS2, and oxygen first liberated into the lumen, later comes outside. Through stomata, they moves into the atmosphere. Now the protons are released into the lumen. That means more protons are accumulated inside the lumen. Why? Because of two sources. One, this proton pumping the protons actively by using energy from stroma into the lumen. That is one. Then splitting of water molecule liberate protons. Therefore, from two sources, protons are increased inside the lumen. As number of protons increases, its pH also decreases. pH increases in the lumen, decreases in the stroma. Okay. As a result, the protons present inside the lumen increases when compared with the stroma. More protons in the lumen, less protons in the stroma. As a result, difference of concentration is created. That is called as proton concentration gradient is established. Because of that, these protons want to move back to the stroma, but this membrane does not allow, but only through one channel it must move out. That is called coupling factor complex. This is called coupling factor complex. Through this, in these two parts are there. CF0 act as proton channel, and this is the catalytic site. Now the protons moves from lumen into the stroma. Protons moves from lumen into the stroma through proton channel, that is CF0, and then into the CF1. When the protons enters into the CF1, they liberate energy. Utilizing that energy, this ATP synthase become activated. As a result, utilizing that energy, ATP synthase coupled ADP with inorganic phosphate and form ATP. So ATP is formed by ATP synthase by coupling ADP with inorganic phosphate. Okay, this is called formation of ATP. Thus, ATP is formed in the stroma. Already NADPH is formed in the stroma. So that means ATP and NADPH both are formed inside the stroma. Right? This is combinedly called assimilatory power. Along with assimilatory power, oxygen is also liberated. So in photosynthesis, during light reaction, oxygen is liberated as byproduct. Now this ATP and NADPH, see one more point here. Protons moves out from lumen into the stroma is by facilitated diffusion, which is passive. Entry of protons into lumen, active. Exit of protons from the lumen into the stroma is passive by facilitated diffusion. Thus, finally, ATP and NADPH are formed. These are combinedly called as assimilatory power, and this is utilized in the dark reaction in order to convert carbon dioxide into carbohydrate. That we will discuss tomorrow. That is about today's class. Thank you, one and all.